Hello, it's July 23rd, 2019. You're watching LifeTalk. I'm Mark Crutcher, and joining me are the usual suspects. Rennie Hobbs.
Hello.
Hello,
It's
Rennie.
nice to be here.
My assistant, and my daughter Sheila.
Yeah.
It is your Sheila, though.
Yeah, it is my Sheila. Yeah, I learned that on a long time ago.
And Ernie.
And, of course, we are also joined by Ernie, the frilled-necked Republican, who's with us every week, and he's very reliable.
Yes,
I would say he's more reliable than most politicians.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's way more reliable.
I still say we need to get a real life frilled neck lizard and put a little tank up here and he can sit in the tank.
Can you imagine
during
what the
show.
PETA people would say?
Don't we have enough animals around this area?
And
We
plus,
can always get more.
if that thing ever got out, Willie would
Oh,
The
shoot
cat.
him.
The cat would have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Tux would be, our big dog would be.
We would
hiding
have
under-
an audience right now.
That's right.
Yeah, I have an article from Life News. This is pretty good news considering how young this is. Mark Harrington, Matt Harrison, sorry. And we interviewed him a few years ago, and he explained the abortion reversal protocol and the procedure, everything.
For the pill, abortion pill.
The abortion pill, yeah. So far, 750 babies have been saved from this since it began, which is such a blessing.
And the pro-aborts say it doesn't work, and there's no proof of it.
And and it's not FDA approved, and they're wanting approval, and they just want the babies to die. Period. The
Don't
end
we
of the
have
story.
700 babies alive that are somewhat? They're kind of proof that it
Oh,
works.
yeah, definitely.
750.
Yeah,
Yeah,
750. I know.
But let's remember something.
What's that?
Multiply how much the average abortion cost
Mm-hmm.
times those 750 babies. That's how much money the abortion lobby lost,
That's
and that's the
lost,
thing
yeah.
they will not tolerate.
That's right. Yeah, good point. Yeah, absolutely. And then also in Life News, there is an embryonic stem cell institute in California called the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, CIRM, that is no longer accepting grant applications. They have lost $3 billion that was given to them through a bond, and they're saying that this is not a cure. This does not work. It's more of the adult stem cells that they're needing to use instead of embryonic. And we've known this from the very beginning here.
And you've had these people come out and say, "Look, we've never had a single cure from using embryonic stem cells,
not
but we
one.
still want billions of dollars to do it."
Yeah, and there's a guy that was an advocate in 2004 when this first started that is pushing for $5.5 billion to keep this thing going when he knows that it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and we've talked, and as a result of our undercover expose on them selling baby parts, we've talked to people from these pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
They say it doesn't work.
Right.
And the only advances that have been made so far are with adult stem cells.
Yes.
But the problem with adult stem cells is they don't justify abortion. Right. And that's what this is about.
That's right.
If they can ever have a breakthrough, if they can just cure hangnails with embryonic stem cells,
Then they think that they've got a
Yeah.
good thing going.
they'll
and,
say, look
yeah.
at all the wonderful things
We did something.
Well,
we can do with abortion.
this goes into the issue of using abortion as a good thing for scientific research. Abortion is never a good thing for any kind of scientific research.
Nope.
Abortion, you can't kill a baby, a living human being, in order to justify trying to save or help other people.
That's right.
No, you can't use that as a justification.
No.
You can't.
And this just, that's one thing. And another thing is Hollywood is trying to push abortion more and more, just like the scientific community is, Hollywood is. There was an article in the New York Times. There was a conference outside of LA recently that was attended by like a lot of Hollywood heavyweights. A national rights lawyer named Fatima Goss Graves attended the event. She stated that the stories on abortion do not match our reality. Talking about stories in the media and stuff, fictional stories. And so she encouraged more abortion stories to be shown.
Positive.
more positive abortion
Right.
stories. She wants also the number of abortion stories portrayed is already rising, but these people want more to normalize it, and they also want Plan B to be showed, like the use of Plan B as well. It's just ridiculous. They're already biased, and now they want even more.
All right.
Well, yeah, because of the rise of the Me Too movement and all of the feminists. And I guarantee you, when these people go home at night and they're there by themselves, do they really believe that killing the unborn is a justified thing? In their hearts, do they really believe that? Or do they have to portray somebody that they're really not just to fit in with the rest of the people? I mean,
I think to some degree, because what you're suggesting by your question is they don't really believe it.
I don't.
I'm not sure of that, Renee. I think their hearts are so cold and so black.
There is so much evil.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's both ways. I truly believe that there are people out there, even in Hollywood, they're ignorant. They just read into the abortion industry lingo. They believe that. They don't search deeper, and they're just ignorant. And then there's some that really don't care that it's,
I know that we've said this 1,000 times on the show, but I would love for any one of those people to go into the abortion clinic and schedule the appointment, and when that person comes in, go back with them and be there when the procedure is being done, and put the baby together from the petri dish, and then send it off to the lab. I'd love for them to just see that.
I've said this many times before. I'd like to see federal law that says we start an abortion channel, and you could do this online, or you could do it broadcast television or whatever. Every abortion, there's a sonogram taken, the abortion is done, and the results of this abortion are shown on television.
Yeah.
And say, okay, if we're going to do this, then let's watch it.
Yeah, let's show it all.
I mean, that goes into graphic abortion baby pictures. A lot of abortion advocates, you show them, they either get mad or they like to say, oh, well, that's Photoshop. That's not real. It's deniability. They deny.
It's amazing how many times those graphic images have actually stopped somebody from aborting their child.
Yeah.
too.
That's right.
But I'm just talking about the everyday layperson who thinks abortion's okay.
Yeah.
They come across this picture.
They ought to be forced to watch one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Forced to participate in one.
That's right.
You put the baby back together after the
Yeah,
procedure.
that's right.
If you think it's such a hot deal, you participate in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to an event, what was it, Friday night
Yes.
in Dallas with black pro-life leaders. And these guys are starting to really get on fire. Things are really happening.
That's good.
And but I got a lot of questions. There was a lot of younger pro-lifers there, young black people that are coming up. They're going to be leaders in the future. And they had a lot of really interesting questions. But I saw that there was, again, a lot of people asking, why is the media pro-abortion? Why is academia pro-abortion? Why is Hollywood, you mentioned Hollywood, pro-abortion? Why are the political figures pro-abortion? Why are these people so pro-abortion? What made this? And I had a discussion there with one young lady that she was very interested in this, pretty shocked at some of the things I was saying, and I think we need to go over this. First off, as far as the media goes, and we've had, I hardly even talk to the media anymore. I find them such a disgusting group of people.
Yeah.
I have basically nothing to do with them. They're a pack of pathological liars for the most part.
Well, and they won't sign your consent form saying that they will put everything out there unedited. They
Right.
refuse
They
to
refuse
do that.
to do that.
Yeah.
Right. And they want a blank check. They want me to say a bunch of stuff. And unfortunately, a bunch of pro-lifers fall for this crap. Say a bunch of stuff, and them take the film away somewhere and edit it to say what they want it to say.
Yep.
I've been victim of this before. So like you're mentioning, I have a document that I haven't agreed to.
Yes.
If you agree to this, then I will talk to you, which is you print everything or broadcast everything I say in its entirety, unedited.
Right.
None of them will do. I've never had one do that.
Nope.
Never had one, because they want you to give them a blank check.
Yes.
And just trust them. And I've had a lot of them say, you're just going to have to trust us. I don't have to trust you.
Right.
Well,
That will be the day.
where is that written?
Right.
But the question is, why is the media overwhelmingly pro-abortion, much more so than the general population? first off, they do have a different worldview. I mean, that's just a reality.
They're in an isolated bubble,
Yeah, they are. And they're surrounded by other people just like themselves.
an echo chamber.
Right. The second thing is the media tend to be what I call arrogant elitist. They're smarter than everybody else. They know more than everybody else. They're more moral than everybody else. And you see this demonstrated by these people on a regular basis. But the reality is, when people say, when I've been asked this, and I've been asking out in public before in things that were being broadcast, why do you think the media is so pro-abortion? I think the basic problem is not that they're all hardcore leftist or Marxist or godless degenerates, although a very high percentage of them are. My take on the media, and I've had lots of dealings with them over the year, they're just not very bright. I don't find them to necessarily be hardcore leftist or hardcore pro-aborts. They're just not very smart. And if you're not very bright, the natural position on abortion is pro-choice, because all you have to know is, and I've said this a million times before, when I used to do my life activist seminars training pro-lifers all over the United States and Canada, I did over 140 of these seminars. We had over 15,000 people go to them. It was an all-day event, and even at the end of the all-day event, I knew that I had only scratched the surface of what they needed to know.
Right.
But if I was doing an event for the pro-abortion side, it's a 5-minute seminar. I go in there and I say, look, you don't have to know anything.
Just that.
Regurgitate this.
We want money.
I'm not in favor of abortion. I think abortion's a bad thing, but I don't think I have the right to tell somebody else what they can and can't
It's
do.
her body, her choice.
Just you regurgitate that. I
Right.
don't have the right to tell anybody else what to do, and I don't think the government has that right either. That's all you have to know. That's 100%. Whereas on the pro-life side, you have to make the pro-life argument, you have to understand law, you have to understand medicine, you have to understand science and biology and theology. There's a lot of
Technology.
things. All kinds of ologies.
Philosophy.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of things you have to understand.
Right.
So the pro-abortion position naturally is naturally more appealing to people who are on the lower end of the IQ scale. And my experience with people in the media is this is what you go into. Journalism is what you go into. I hate to say this because you hate to generalize about a whole group of people. And I have met some people in the media that I thought were relatively intelligent. But as a whole, apparently journalism school is what you go into and you flunk out of everything else.
Well, it's become the default position of society now. It's become, pro-lifers are seen as outside the norm, on the fringe, whereas abortion with the destruction of motherly instinct, abortion is the
that's
default
because of the
position.
media.
Well, yeah, I know,
Academia.
but now it's just, like I said,
Right.
the default position that people automatically go, oh, her body, her choice, I'm going to wipe my hands clean of this issue.
Right. All right. Then we move on to academia. Why is academia so pro-abortion? And first off, you look at college campuses today, the problem is not students, the problem is faculty and administration. And the faculty and administration of most universities in this country are leftover 60s, drugged out hippies.
Right.
And they went into academia because they could get into academia, and now they're running the schools. And that's what's out there. And there's also, again, this elitist arrogance that we see in the media. Hollywood. First off, when you look at people in Hollywood, when you start talking about moral values, whether it's homosexuality or abortion or just any number of issues,
Right.
you have to remember something. They have a lifestyle that is interfered with by moral values. And so they have to reject those moral values.
Yes.
And again, you have this elitist arrogance in Hollywood. And, these are very hypocritical people. I'll give you 2 examples of this, and I'll just leave the abortion issue out of it altogether. I'll just give you an example of the sheer hypocrisy in Hollywood. These people are always the first to call for gun control when something happens. And they go out and they do public service announcements and they do commercials opposing gun ownership, gun rights, Second Amendment rights, and so forth. And yet, I would argue that over the last, say, 30 or 40, 50 years, the vast majority of the movies in this country have glorified gun violence. And they'll even do trailers where they'll show somebody being shot and they'll slow it down to ultra slow motion so you see the guy going like this and his head exploding.
Yeah.
So they have sat around here for 50 years and they have made their fortunes off gun violence.
That's right.
But then they go out in public and say, oh, you don't have a right to own a gun.
Yeah.
The other thing, talk about inequality, talk about the Hollywood hypocrisy. These guys are also the first ones, and they're doing it. I saw a thing in the news just yesterday talking about income inequality, because you have all these studies out here show that the CEO of this corporation makes X times as much money as the people on the assembly line at General Motors or wherever it might be. And they say, this is obscene that this guy makes 126 times as much money. Let me ask you this, and I'll just ask you guys this. I've never asked either one of you this before. If there's a new Hollywood movie and they're signing up actresses and actors, and let's say they're going to get big name actors and actresses who, DiCaprio or somebody like this, that can command tens of millions of dollars, do you think that he demands that all the grips and the gaffers and the best boys and all the go look at the credits on a movie and look how many people it takes. It takes hundreds of people.
Oh, yeah.
To make a movie.
They have to fast forward it really quick. Yeah.
It takes hundreds. Do you think that he sits down and says, "Look, before I sign this contract, I want to, instead of you giving me $50 million to do this movie, give me $5 million and divide that other $45 million up among these other people."
Actually, you're painting a general picture. Yes, that is what we see the majority of time, but there are minority people who have done that. There are minority people who are pro-life. There are probably more pro-life people in Hollywood than we realize. It's just their voices are getting drowned out, or they're afraid to speak up because of these big names that are in front of the camera.
Yeah, I remember when Charlton Heston, did Eclipse of Reason. And someone asked him one time if he thought that this would affect his career in Hollywood. And he said, no, but if I wasn't Charlton Heston, it would. If I were one of these lower lower economic people in Hollywood, I'd never get another job. He said, but I'm Charlton Heston. I played Moses. You know, and at the time when he did that Eclipse of Reason, he was probably the most famous and most well-paid actor in Hollywood. He said, they can't hurt me. He said, I'm not the problem. You got to worry about the people down the trail.
Exactly.
Those are the ones who. But I guarantee you that Leonardo DiCaprio or any of these other high-profile people don't sit down when they're looking at a contract and saying, "Oh, don't pay me that much. Pay the gaffer more. Pay the grips more.
Right.
We want income equality." It doesn't happen. Then we have the issue of politicians. And I've got some views on politicians that I really want to get into. And so I think, well, instead of getting into that now, we're going to do robots. And when we come out of robots, I want to talk about politicians. And then we want to talk about what's the common theme between all these groups that people are wondering, why are they so pro-abortion? Anyway, let's take this moment out for robots, and we'll be right back.
In 1973, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion nationwide. The decision is called Roe versus Wade, and those who defend it are known as robots. This is how they think.
As Christians, we need to recognize that abortion is just one of many issues the church has to be concerned about.
If abortion is the taking of human life, and even many abortion apologists now concede that it is, then our country is an active participant in the largest Holocaust in world history. To suggest that this is even in the same universe as any other issue facing the church is outrageous. You can be assured that if those who say abortion is just one of many issues were about to be sliced open alive and have their corpses tossed into a dumpster, they'd be singing a different tune. Now, there can be several strategies why people who call themselves Christians might equate abortion with other issues. They could be using it to hide the fact that they actually support legalized abortion. or the fact that they are indifferent to it. Others could be using it to explain away their church's inaction over abortion or to reconcile their support for an abortion-silent preacher. Whatever the motivation for this one of many issues rhetoric, it is easily exposed as a scam by simply asking someone who says such a thing whether they would ever join a church led by an avowed and outspoken white supremacist. Ask if they would be willing to look the other way on the basis that race is just one of many issues. Or is this a standard they only apply to the wholesale slaughter of the unborn? Or how about this? What if there was legislation proposed in Congress to take away the church's tax-exempt status, and it looked like this legislation might actually pass? Would that be one of many issues? Or would Washington, D.C. fill up with preachers? Of course, I think we all know the answer to that. All right, we're back. You had a story real quick that you wanted to get to before we get into these politicians.
So a few years ago, we put out the report Under the Radar. It's about women refusing to get abortions, and they've either been, beat up, assaulted, even killed. Well, there was a case of a 17-year-old female who moved out of her mom's house, moved in with a friend that she had met. He wanted to be her boyfriend. She became pregnant by him. He wanted her to have an abortion. She refused to have an abortion. He shot her in the left eye while she was pregnant because she wouldn't have an abortion. She survived, but she had to be put into a medically induced coma for a few weeks. She has a prosthetic eye now, but her and her baby survived, and her baby is completely fine.
That's good. I read the story just to be prepared for the show, obviously. And it's kind of neat, though. The way they busted him was he went up to her to talk to her while she was in a coma, and her blood pressure, everything skyrocketed. And Mom saw this and knew that something was not right, and she called the police.
Yep. He only got 25 years in jail, though.
Yeah, that's kind of due to her too, though.
Huh?
That's due to her too, in a way.
Well, no,
She agreed with it.
Oh,
Well,
she
Went along with it, yeah.
But that's common. These guys don't get hardly any time.
It's just it's what we talked about in that report. In the report that we did, you said it was about people being beat up and killed, sometimes killed. Our report was only about women who were killed.
Well, yes, but
it's very common for women to be beat up or put in a nursing home, or in this case, killed. We had about 90 cases, I think, that we documented and put into the report. But this argument that legalized abortion profits women is just, it's the biggest lie in the history of the world. I'm convinced of it.
there's a reason why the early feminists were against abortion.
They knew it was something that would profit sexually irresponsible and sexually predatory males.
Yes.
And the question then became, if these guys are going to look at abortion as a safety net they jump into,
Yes.
and the girl refuses to jump into the net, what do?
Yep.
And a significant number of them will become very violent. And the reason they become violent is very simple. They're pushing abortion. They're already conditioned to be violent. They'll say, I will kill my own offspring to get me out of this trap.
Yep.
Why wouldn't I kill this woman?
This is why it's very important that when you become boyfriend and girlfriend with somebody
Know
or
their-
fiance, know their take on abortion.
Yep, because if you're male, and I've talked about this before, you have 3 children that even when they were much younger, and we talked about this.
Yes.
If your daughter gets hooked up with a guy, and even if they're married, and he doesn't want to have the baby, and she doesn't want to have the abortion,
Yes.
he might be pro-choice about her.
That's right. And there are stories in that article too.
The
caseload.
And on the other hand, if one of your boys were to get some girl pregnant, and she's pro-choice, and he doesn't know that, and all of a sudden she's going to kill his baby, and there's nothing in the world he can do to stop it,
Yeah.
he may live with that for the rest of his life.
Yeah, just recently, the saddest article where a man was yelling and crying at the doorsteps of the abortion.
It was a video. And that's not the only video. More and more videos are popping up online of that happening.
And we've had those discussions here. We've had guys call here. We've had women whose sons had gotten somebody pregnant,
Right.
and now the daughter is going to have the abortion. I mean, the girl's going to have the abortion, and they're calling here saying, "What can we do?"
There's nothing, absolutely nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do. Your baby is butchered, and there's nothing you can do about
Yeah.
it. So if you're going out here and you're dating, you better know what that person's position on abortion is.
Right.
You better know that up front before you get involved with them.
Yes.
First off, I don't think you should be getting involved with people whose morals are so low they're pro-choice anyway. Why would you want to be involved with somebody like that? With that kind of person?
I mean, you can go to church and people still think abortion's okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you just need to know that
You
person.
just got to know what kind of person you're dealing with. Let's go back to what makes these particular groups pro-abortion. And the last one I want to talk about is politicians. And again, you have that same elitist arrogance. They're the chosen ones. They're the cream of the crop. They're the smartest. So that's a big issue. But I think there's something even more sinister here at work. And that's what I call personal abortions. And I'll just use Bill Clinton as an example. Everybody agrees that even Bill Clinton's most staunch defenders agree that during the 8 years he was president, most of the people that put him in office, that supported him and he supported, he dropped them in the grease at one point along the way. There were times he turned his back on everybody. And the one exception to that was the abortion industry. He never once betrayed them. Not once did he ever do anything to betray the abortion industry.
That was his best friend.
But why? But he had other friends. He was friends with a lot of hardcore Marxists, and then he comes out here and says, "Look, the era of big government's over." That was Bill Clinton that said that. He was lying, but that's what he said. And so he dropped those people in the
Yeah,
grease.
he used it for his advantage, for sure.
But he never betrayed the abortion lobby. And let me tell you what I think goes on in the abortion lobby, in the abortion industry, if you will. I think that when a woman goes into an abortion clinic, and if they happen to ask her, "Who's the father of your baby?" or she happens to mention it, and it's some high-profile person, they make a note of that. I am convinced there's a database somewhere of politicians whose girlfriends or wives or whoever, usually girlfriends and wives don't even know about them, have had abortions. They can use that over their heads from then on. And we know that Jennifer Flowers, when testified that she got pregnant by Bill Clinton and had an abortion here in Dallas. Given Bill Clinton's history, that's not the only one of his children that ever got sucked down a drain.
Well, I would think that he would have the secret abortions with a doctor that is
A
has
private physician.
yeah, thank you, a private physician. That
Still, there's people that know about it.
Yeah.
You got the doctor, you've got the nurse, you've got other people that know about it, and I'm convinced that they can hold that over their heads from then on.
I don't necessarily think it's all blackmail. I think it's just that it's like with any lobbying group. You get lobbyists in there and Congress, and bribes happen, and they make strong ties.
But something explains why, and we've seen this time and time again, why you have people that run for office, and it could be President of the United States, or it could be, the local county commissioner's court or whatever. And this has happened millions of times to the pro-life movement. These people run for office and they're hardcore pro-life, and they go to pro-life events and they accept pro-life support. And, they make it clear that they're unashamedly, unabashedly, unchangeably pro-life. And the minute a major bill comes along, they flop. Not before that, but then.
Just because they're not pro-life to begin with.
Well, okay, but some of them were.
No,
You can't say that all of them weren't.
No, I don't agree with if you're pro-life and you believe that it's a living human being that has a right to life, you don't flop on that issue.
I know, but these guys are conditioned to negotiate. That's what they do. That's
right.
how they.
They're politicians.
And I'm saying to you that I think that a lot of times when these guys flop, and I've seen some of these high-profile people. I mean, I could sit here and name some of them that I've been involved with, that just all of a sudden flopped over. out of nowhere. I think somebody went down and sat down with them and said, hey, by the way, do you remember a woman named yada, yada, yada? And do you remember that she got pregnant in 1988? And do you know what happened with that pregnancy? And I'm telling you, when you look at a sleazebag like Bill Clinton, and by the way, he's just one of them that got caught. There's plenty of
Yeah.
sleazebags out
gosh.
there
And-
just as bad as Bill Clinton.
And I believe sometimes that is the case, but I wouldn't equate that to everyone. I think the major issue is that in their heart, they truly weren't pro-life.
Well, I think there's a lot to that too. I think a lot of times they're politically pro-life. They say, my district is pretty pro-life, and I'm not going to get elected if I come out here and say I support baby killing.
Exactly.
So they're politically pro-life, and then when push comes to shove, they bail. But I'm just telling you that a lot of these people that I have seen over the years that you just knew in their heart they were pro-life, or they thought they were. But when they saw their political career and their marriage going down the toilet, it's circling the drain, and the only way they can get out of the trap is to support this bill over here.
Was to come out and be honest and just tell everybody what had happened back when he was 16 or 17 years old.
Yeah, but a lot of times this happened after they were in office.
That's
And I'm just saying, I think that they reconcile in their own mind. They'll say, okay, well, this little bill over here is really not directly going to kill any babies, and it's not going to do this, and I'm not killing these babies. This is just the political will of the people. They can reconcile this in their own minds, and I think they do. And I think they have a history that caused them to do that.
I don't put my faith in politicians. I don't believe in politicians until I see them in action, until they vote on a pro-life bill or any type
Right.
of bill. I hold them with a grain of salt. And
Well, that's one reason I think that Trump is popular, is not because necessarily everybody likes what he does, but he's at least doing what he said he was going to do.
exactly. And as pro-lifers, we can't just rely on politics and our politicians
No.
that we vote for.
Yeah.
Pro-lifers have to actively be doing something instead of just relying on the people they vote for.
Let me point something out here. When you're looking at the media, academia, Hollywood, or politicians, the one common theme with all of them is that elitist arrogance. They all have that. And I think that's scriptural. God said they're going to hate you because they hated me first. And this is them hating us because they hate him first. And I think that's what's going on here. I think that's the overarching theme for all these people. And when you look at, for example, and just in using politics as an example, Obama comes out here, who is the most arrogant and elitist of all of them, any politician I ever saw. But when he says, yeah, these people cling to their guns and their Bibles and their religion and their churches, he's looking down his nose at the Christian community. That's what he's doing. He's saying they're stupider than us. They don't know anything. We're the elites. We're the intelligent. They need to just step back and just do what we tell them to do. That's what he's saying. And anyway,
Gonna happen.
that's a common theme throughout all these groups of people. Anyway, y'all got anything else?
Nope.
We're done.
Thank you for sending in your show ideas. We appreciate them and we use them. Or if we do use them, we will send you a mug, if you can see this. Nice mug. So yeah, just send us in your comments.
And we'd love to hear from you if you have any comments about the show at all, whether they're show ideas or not. We want to hear what you're thinking. Until next Tuesday, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops. We'll see you next week.